Tata Greene, Tommy Greene, NBC Sports Philadelphia analyst, joins us now on the Boardwalk Honda hotline as the Phillies, the first-place Phillies. Let's start with that, Tommy Greene. What do you think of those words, first-place Phillies?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, guys, it's got a good ring to it, doesn't it? Did we expect that right at this part of the season? I'd have to say no at the beginning, but hey, I tell you what, it's a pleasant surprise. The guys are finding a way to get it done.
They certainly are. And before we get into the current Phillies, I want to talk about a former Philly because that's dominating the headlines today. Chase Utley, it reported is that he's going to retire at the end of this season. Well, what were your first thoughts when you heard that news this afternoon that Utley's going to hang up his spikes at the end of the year?
Well, I mean, I tell you what, you hate to see something like that. I mean, one of the true baseball players, if you ask me, the down and dirty, gritty type guy. He plays the game hard like it's supposed to be, and he's always has. And and it's a tough decision. I had to go through it, and it was a hard thing for me to do, to pull the trigger. I had to go out on my terms, and as long as he's doing that, I mean, that's a great thing. I mean, as long as he's reached that point. So
yeah, it's not going to be like a Mike Schmidt press conference in San Francisco where he says he was a kid with 2 bad knees. He's going to break. I don't anticipate Chase Utley crying. Do you?
And I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's emotional. I know it was when I finally said it. I mean, I was emotional. I was emotional about it. I don't know if I really, but I had got really fed up with my stuff. And when I pulled the trigger on the go, I was ready to go. So it wasn't. I did everything I could do for my health, and I was having a lot of arm problems and stuff. So I want to say it was easier for me to pull the trigger, but I had to get to that point, and it took some years for me to get there. So, I mean, it's hard to say, well, it's going to be emotional and up. The man spent his life doing what he loved, and it's a great game, and it's giving him what he's got, a lot of it, and it is an emotional time. It is an emotional thing.
Tommy Greene with us. Yeah, your last big league team was the Houston Astros in '97, but just take us through that last little bit of where you finally made that decision. Who were you playing for? Where were you in the country? What was it that said, this is it, it's time?
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, my last little bit in the big leagues was in '97, like you said, with Houston, but I didn't finally pull the trigger and retire until the summer of 2000. And I had my second surgery in Houston that summer, and then I ended up having another surgery the following year because they couldn't figure out what was going on, and I had to find out myself. I wasn't playing with anybody. I couldn't open doors, and it was without it hurt me. Couldn't play catch with my kid in the backyard and that type of thing back in the day. So I had to figure out something, And it was something what was wrong with my shoulder. It had, I had to rehab. The doctor told me, he said, sooner or later you're going to have it done. And you want it done at 50 or you want it done now? I mean, you're younger now, you'll probably rehab better. And the way I looked at it, I said, if I got to rehab it, and what I had done, there was no guarantees, no pitcher had ever come back from something like that. But I got to rehab it anyway. I might as well see if I could throw. And I kind of come back a little bit, and I was throwing okay, but I didn't have the feel and touch like I used to have, and I didn't know, and it ultimately didn't end up commanding the baseball, and it broke down again. It was just one of those things that hold up for a little bit when you got in game situations. The repetition, it just tore down again. And Jim Fregosi gave me an opportunity in spring training, to come back, the minor league camp and stuff with Toronto, and that's one of the. I mean, that was the last,
right.
bit I tried one spring, and I finally come to grips with that. I was playing in 30th over the league after that, just to see if I could see if I could get it up to relieve and that type of thing. It might not be a starter anymore, but I ended up having fun at the game because I got to hit a little bit and I pitched, and then I got a chance to, somebody called me about coaching in independent ball, and I went and did that and really enjoyed it. But then I realized, my time was done. So I retired during that time myself. I come to grips with it, and I was able to walk away happy because I'd done everything I could possibly do to make myself healthy, and I worked as hard as anybody. So that was when I did it. It took me some years to get there. I mean, I went through a process that, I was trying to figure out what was wrong, And then I figured out, I said, well, if I got to rehab it anyway, see if I can throw with it.
Right.
And, ultimately I couldn't. It was just something that, as a pitcher, I wasn't going to be able to hold up.
Yes.
And nobody was going to take a chance on me and keep paying somebody like that. So, and that's just the way it is.
So do you think Chase Utley is going to have some pay? I mean, because is that why he's pushed himself to go so long? Because he's just so driven and loves the game that much?
Well, he wanted to, he proved some things to himself. He really dedicated himself and took care of himself, with the knee problems that he had, and, to try to change his, the way he goes about his workouts and stuff to try to make him healthy, to see if he can do it and stand up to the daily rigors. We don't know what he's going through physically and how he feels. I mean, I haven't talked to him, haven't seen him in a long time, but the time I met, I'm not. I've met him a couple times, and got a chance to talk with him. One particular time, pretty good. But you don't really know what somebody's really going through. Until they tell you, come out and tell you. We can assume, whatever we want, but come down. Do we, if he's hurting a lot, is it? And when you start hurting, I know it from. I can vouch for myself. When you start hurting, you're trying to go out there hurt and try to play and do things. It takes the fun out of the game. Because you can't, you're not able to do what you used to do, and that was a humbling piece of pie to me when coming back. And I still could see myself doing what I used to be able to do, as far as command and everything, and feel and touch. And then after my last surgery, when I was missing the ligaments and anchoring stuff down, and trying to removing some bones, so I had more room for my head and my shoulder to try to act properly, and I didn't have that feel and touch. Man, pretty much. I'd look at the cat. I couldn't. I didn't know where it was going, and that's a humbling. That's a humbling thing,
right?
For a pitcher to, say to speak, is pitched at the highest level, or even a player at the highest level when they lose that tick and or they start hurting and they're not, and they just can't get up to go every day like they used to, and it's a piece of humble pie.
I can't imagine a guy that threw a no-hitter, Tommy Greene, with us on the Sports Bash, threw a no-hitter and gets to the end there and isn't sure where the baseball is going. Tommy, the Mets fans, they aren't disappointed that Chase Utley's retiring. Of course, they brought up the Ruben Tejada play where he broke Ruben Tejada's leg. I never got to ask you, where did you fall on that play? Was that a dirty slide?
Well, I'm from the old school more. Did he go in hard? Yeah. I don't think he purposely went in to hurt him. He played the game hard. That's just the way he played, and it worked out that way. How many slides have we seen in the past where he used to roll block all the time, and the people would take people out at second base? The game's evolved, and just like the plays at home plate and stuff now. Before long, we can assume a tag and somebody's going to be out. They don't want contact at all. It's just the sign of the times. Yeah. Things, the way the game is played now, and how much money is involved in the game. And some of the guys, they got so much invested in a guy, they don't want something like that happening. So to speak. Before taking them off the field like that and away from the fans, and I think it's going to cost everybody a lot of money. But still, the game needs to be played. The fabric of the game, to me, the integrity of the game. Play the game hard, but you don't want to play the game dirty all the time. You know what I mean? You play the game hard, and there's going to be times when things gets rough. But it's just like football a little bit too. They're taking away some things in football that, before long, I feel like we're going to be playing flag football, two-hand touch, it's that type of thing. But, it comes down, it's a business, and there's a lot of money involved in it. So there's going to be some changes and some growing pains, so to speak.
Tommy Greene with us here on the Sports Bash. So before we move on from Chase Utley, I'm giving you a vote, Tommy. Is he a future Hall of Famer? Chase Utley, Hall of Fame, yes or no?
Well, it's a good question. I haven't really thought about it. It also would be hard for me to give a yes or a no in that. My heart's telling me the way the guy goes about his business and everything that, he's got a real good shot at it. But the numbers, the last part of his career, could that be hurting him? It could, but he had a good stretch for 6 or 7 years there. He was as good as anybody. So, it's going to be a wait and see thing. So, I'd have to really dig into it a little bit to say a yes vote.
Spending a little time here with Tommy Greene to talk about Chase Utley's news today. It looks like he's reportedly going to retire at the end of the season. I believe that press conference is 3:15 West Coast time, so in a couple minutes from now, maybe we'll have some more details exactly on Chase Utley. But we do know this, Tommy Greene, and this is something we asked on our 97.3 ESPN Twitter poll. The Phillies host the Dodgers after it's Padres, then Dodgers is the two series coming up after the All-Star break. There's 3 games against the Dodgers, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Not this coming, but the following. All 3 of those sellouts in your mind? 2 of the 3 sellouts in your mind? 1 of the 3, the first one?
I tell you what, I mean, with the way we're playing, I'm expecting the crowds to start getting better. If we stay like doing what we're doing, I'm expecting it to be better. And also with somebody like this coming to the fruition and being announced, so to speak, that Chase is going to retire, I think, obviously the people were going to come out for him because he's beloved here in the way he played and the way he went about his business on the field. He's loved by a lot of people in the city, a lot of fans. So I'm expecting them to come out and support those, the Phillies and in the game of baseball and Chase Utley.
Tommy Greene with us. Tommy, how you doing? Ryan here. Listen, you talked a little bit about the lack of attendance. So as a former player yourself, what's going on over there? How do you think the clubhouse feels looking up in the stands and half the stadium's empty and they're playing great baseball, they're working their butts off, they're in first place? I mean, it's middle of July now, and I feel like, being on the radio every day, the interest isn't there. We're not talking about it as much as we would like to. We want to talk about it all the time, but people aren't showing up. It's not on everyone's minds, at the top of their minds. So talk about, as a former player, maybe give us some insight on what's going on and when can we see those seats filled?
Well, it's always fun to play in front of large crowds. It gets the adrenaline going a little bit. But as ball, I know as me as a pitcher and stuff like that. We tried not, and the way I was brought up in the minor leagues, especially with Leo Mazzoni and stuff with the Braves, the game for me is played 60 foot 6 inches away. I can't get caught looking around the ballpark and being in awe of the situation and being, and thrilled with 40 or 50,000 people in the stand, a packed house. My game is played 60 foot 6 inches away, right, with my catcher. And the way I'm trying to attack hitters and what I'm trying to accomplish out there. Sure. And as soon as I got that in my head, not worry about what my surroundings are, that's one step of becoming a better pitcher. You're not in all of the situation that's around you. But it does, I have to admit, the vibes, when you got the crowd and stuff like that, it's a huge thing. It's always it amps you up a little bit, and it's about controlling your emotions and different like that, and I'd like to see the fans coming out more. Times have changed. It's very expensive to go to the ballpark and do things, and we've had a lot of success this past year, especially in football. The Eagles, they won the Super Bowl, and what they did during their season last year, people were so amped and so positive about that. And did they think the Phillies were going to be where they were at the point to make this type of push and be at the top of their division at this point, in the season or in their rebuild? Right. I don't know if they did or not. I think all of us are, it's a very pleasant surprise. We knew they have talent, and it's about people staying healthy and putting some, and picking each other up, and that's the way teams win. They're finding ways to do things, and they're getting a chance to win some one-run ball games, and they're doing it. They're finding ways to do it. Could they be better? Yes. They could be better. Things. The defensive side of it, runners in scoring position, the offensive side of it could be better. I think all in general, they're teaming it up here and finding ways to do it. The pitchers are picking the hitters up, and then the hitters are picking timely hit and picking the pitchers up and doing different things. So it's a very good time, and to see them, doing what they do. They're a young team, and I think it's sort of maybe shocked a few people that they're where they're at. Do I expect attendance to get better as it goes? And if they stay right here where they're at, I do. I expect it to get better because Philadelphia fans they're great sports people, and they want a winner, and they're going to let you know when you don't win. and not play the game the right way. They're going to let you know, and which is what, to me, that's what endeared me to them. I loved them. They held you accountable. Now, I played on some teams that, I mean, and I played in the old vet where you can pack, 65, 70, almost 70,000 people in there. We draw, 30, 35,000 people, and it felt like it was empty. So I mean, it was that type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and then when you get 60 in there or more in the playoffs, towards the end of the season, you got 55, 65,000 people in there. It's rocking. That's when it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I agree with you. I think the seats are going to start filling up soon. So, Tommy, you talked about your game with the catcher, that 60-foot, 6-inch game. So let's transition into the pitching a little bit with the Philadelphia Phillies. Nick Pivetta finally bounces back. He allowed 3 runs on 5 hits with 7 strikeouts. He basically went 7 innings, going 6 2/3. Finally, Tommy, he looks like a pitcher out there, and he takes the team into basically 7 innings. So we'll talk a little bit about Pivetta and what you saw out of him and that important bounce back, because you know better than anyone, the game's mental, and he was on that little bit of a slide there, and he turns out a really big importance for himself and the team the other night.
Well, you're exactly right. We sorely need him, to kind of get back on track. Now, the key to us winning and stuff is like 3 of the 5 guys have got to be going at one point, no matter who it is. To keep us going if we're winning 3 out of 5 or they're quality starting us, and they are winning 3 out of 5, we're in a good spot. So they're going to keep doing that throughout the season. It's going to be, it's going to give us a chance to do some real good things. But he went through a spurt right here that was, it was sort of tough. His last 30. I'm looking at the numbers now a little bit and trying to see what's going on with him a little bit, because I didn't see him pitch yesterday. I just saw the line. It was good to see him get back on track and go deep into the game more and get in the 7th inning and possibly get out of that. I think they all need to be pushed a little bit. Pushed a little bit. So like Nola is, they'll let Nola and Arrieta go a little bit if they get up there with the pitches. But I think all of them's got to get there at some point to where they can extend and possibly have a chance to work into the 9th inning. That way, because you got 8 guys in the bullpen are getting used. By the end of the season, 8 guys could be hanging down there in the bullpen if they're getting overused every night and that type of thing. It's a tough thing to do. No matter. I know when we had a 10-man staff. When I played, it was 5 starters, 5 relievers. Now we had to eat innings somehow or another if the bullpen was getting loose. If a couple starters went bad at the same time, 2 or 3 starters that went bad at the same time, it was the other 2 starters that had to figure out. We had to go deep. We had to give the bullpen some nights off. So the guys could feel their arm again, raise their arm again, that type of thing. So, I'm looking forward. The maturation process has happened a little bit this year, I think, with Pivetta and Velasquez. They've made a jump. And, they've showed that they really can do it. Now, Velasquez is right there. I'm so glad that his injury wasn't as bad as it, so to speak, looked at the time.
What a play, Tommy. What a play.
Oh, it was unbelievable. But that ball, that shows you how, for him to be able to make that play as hard as that ball was hit, that ball didn't go any further off him than it did. That ball squared him up and hit him hard. That's what scared me about it, is because that mean it hit him square. And he had a chance of really being injured or broke something in. And I think he got really lucky that, and to see him pitch like he did the other night against the Mets, come back and have that type of ball game against DeGrom, that was, that's a good thing to see. It's sorely neat because, you put all the weight on. Nola's having a great first half. He's had a great year now. He's put together from the second half of last year really into all the way through this. So a great year. He's been top dog, if not one of the top dogs in the league.
Oh yeah, top 5. We're going to get into Nola.
We need guys picking each other up. Guys. It just can't be one guy or so all the time. We got to run through these spurts where these guys run off together a little bit, and they can run off and possibly hide a little bit if they get that streak going a little bit.
Hey, Nola's exactly where I want to go next. Of course, your nickname T to Greene, right? So I'm going to tee you up, Tommy, on some technical pitching questions sort of about Nola.
I play golf today, too.
How'd you shoot? Was it a scramble or was
74?
My God.
74 on 18 holes?
That's correct.
And I had a double bogey, too, so I had a chance to shoot. I hadn't played in a couple of weeks, and I had a chance to shoot. I was happy with the way I hit it. I hit it solid for the most part. So.
Good for you.
Don't play Tommy Greene for money, 74. Ryan could shoot 74 on the front nine, Tommy. It's all good.
That's okay.
Yeah.
We still can have fun.
Absolutely. It's about the camaraderie, which is what we're having here as we talk a little pitching with Tommy Greene. I wanted to ask you about Nola specifically because Scott Lauber for the Philadelphia Inquirer had a great article about Nola's maturation process, Tommy. I read it earlier this week, and one of the things that he put up there, in fact, it was 2 days ago, I think, that he posted this article, was about, you can't live on the fastball alone, and that Aaron Nola, the reason he's having such a great season is his changeup. That the changeup is his killer pitch now. Like, everybody knew he had one of the best curveballs in all of baseball. One of the things they talked about in the article, Tommy, was that the laces are different on the college ball to the pro ball. I mean, and immediately I thought, I got to talk to Tommy Greene about this because I didn't pitch. I mean, past when I was like 13 and I stunk. So, I had to talk to a guy that knows. Is that changeup hard to work on? Is it something that you think he ignored and then it came back? Like, how important? I guess this is the question. The 3-pitch pitcher, how key is that?
Well, I tell you what. I mean, he's got. I had to go through the same thing a little bit. He throws a fastball, curveball, and a change. And I was a fastball, curveball, change at one time, and then I added a slider that really made the big difference in me because my curveball, I couldn't command the curveball. I didn't have the type of curveball he had. I was trying to learn that, and that's something I could never really grasp. But when I learned the slider, it gave me a shorter breaking ball that I got where I could command and change speeds off of it. I could throw a hard one, throw a slower one. It was like having two separate pitches. And that way, when I used the curveball, I didn't have to worry about throwing it for a strike. I could try to bury it, in situations where, I didn't want it to be a strike, but I could make it appear to be, to be a strike and try to bounce it on the back corner and get some swings and get some, it didn't have to be as good as it used to, that I wanted it. I didn't have to throw that strike at will. What makes Nola also he commands that breaking ball, and then now his feel of the change gives him another, he's got that sink on the fastball, the life on his fastball. It obviously does something when he hits the dirt. He's got that little bit of funkiness to him, and that kind of drives hitters nuts a little bit. As far as deception and that type of thing, and he's smooth. The ball kind of does something. And he gets that run in and that sink a little bit, and then he gets that curveball going the other way a little bit, and then he has that changeup that looks just like that heater, but it's obviously not as hard. And it's another pitch that he could use to break the hitter's timing, and that's what you're trying to do as a hitter. As a pitcher, is break hitters' timing. If they can time you up and they're on you, they can hurt you, no matter what pitch it is. But if you're breaking timing and you got them thinking up there, that's what I want as a pitcher. I want him thinking too much. Because if he's thinking too much, he's going to lock up, and that's what Noah's got to do a little bit because he commands what he does. And he's got late life, and he's deceptive, and he's got 3 pitches that he commands what he does. And that's the key. That's called consistency, and that's as a pitcher in the big leagues. That's what we're trying to do. Those strikes early, so it appears to be a strike late, and you don't have to. You take the authority out of their bats.
Oh, that's fantastic stuff from the great Tommy Greene, NBC Sports Philadelphia Phillies analyst. Real bit quick before I let you go. So was that Mazzoni that taught you the slider? Was it Larry Anderson that taught you the slider, or was it somebody else?
Well, I got the theory behind it from Leo, and to tell you the truth, he taught me the theory behind it because they didn't want me to throw it in Atlanta when Leo showed it to me. He said, if you ever get away from me, this is the way that he thinks it's the best way for your elbow, so you won't get around it. You stay behind it, and it's off your fastball, not trying to do too much with it, and turn it too much. So mine was a true slider, and the one he taught me was the way Steve Bedrosian used to throw his.
Oh, Bedrock.
Back in the day.
Good name.
Steve Bedrosian come up through the Braves organization, and Leo had the opportunity to be with him too. And Bedrock had one of the best in the game. And And that's where I learned the theory behind it. And I'd have to show you what I'm talking about. We could do that at a later point just to show you. But,
hopefully over barley and hops beverages.
I never had any elbow problems or anything, from it. And because I threw it off my fastball, and it was something that really helped me. Not say be like Nola, but it was the same theory. It gave me a pitch I could throw behind an account that was off speed, and I could change speeds off of it. I could throw one harder and throw one slower and still have the same and make it both look up like a fastball. So, that's what you're looking, and you start breaking timing, and you start commanding that and throwing strikes. You feel like it will sometimes with it. That's when you can have some fun out there on the mound when you got everything clicking and going. It could be bad for hitters. You can have a lot of fun.
We'll add that to the to-do list. A, have fun. B, try to play golf together. Although now I know that you're giving me strokes. That's absolutely happening.
I'll take the strokes, Tommy. Right. I'll take them.
C, I want to get the pitching lesson. That pitching. I'll bring the baseball like Ben Davis always has. I'll bring the baseball, and we'll do that over some barley and hops, some Shastas. Okay, Tommy?
Yeah, I got you, pal. That sounds good.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tom. We'll see you Sunday, right? That's the next time you're on?
I'm doing some radio Sunday. Me and John Brazier,
right?
Baseball Insider Show.
Yep, good.
Down in Keenan, so we do that it seems like every Sunday. It's an awesome thing. We enjoy it, and then it's a pregame show, and then I'll be on. I'm scheduled to go back on NBC the following weekend, 20th, 21st, 22nd, I think. Every Sunday.
That Padres series you're on.
Yeah.
Yep. So. Sounds good. All right, buddy. T to Greene with us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Thank you, sir. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks for having me, guys.